About 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day, Katie Greifeld and Isabelle Lee in for Romaine Bostic. And here to help take us through the closing bell, it's a global simulcast. We're joined now by Massar and Bailey Lipschultz. He's in for Tim Stanovic. We bring together all of our different audiences to talk about, Carol, a big rally in the S&P 500. It looks like we're going to finish out this Monday close to session highs, even though we had a lot of geopolitical headlines over the weekends that wouldn't necessarily speak to renewed risk appetite here.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to see this trade. It feels a little bit like a blah day, but maybe Bailey will kind of get into that in just a moment. Having said that, you're right, though. We're at session highs, and I'm looking at something like the Russell 2000, those small caps, some outperformance. That index is actually up, Bailey, about 1.4%.
Up 1.4%, as Katie mentioned. S&P right now up about 1%. But guys, I just want to keep perspective. Trading volumes are lower than they have been. So we are trying to keep things kind of in that light, Isabel. When I look at this market, yes, we are recouping all of those losses from the initial attacks, but volumes are low and we're heading into a critical earnings season.
And beyond geopolitical risks and news, we have earnings seasons underway. Goldman Sachs reported today, and we have a full stack this week from JP Morgan, Citi, BlackRock, Wells Fargo, all set to report tomorrow, and everyone will offer a window into the state of the economy amid everything that's happening.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see the reception to Goldman, and an interesting miss when it came to their bond trading, but those stock traders just crushed it. In any case, you can see that we are setting up for the close here, just a few seconds away. The S&P 500, fresh off of 2 straight weeks of gains, look like it's going to finish this Monday higher by about 1%, matched and then some by the NASDAQ, going to finish 1.2% higher. You take a look at the Dow, it's not really exciting. What can the Dow tell you about this economy? It's higher by about 0.6%. And then we zoom out, we look at the Russell 2000. Carol, as you mentioned, the little guys were the big outperformers today. The Russell 2000 going to finish about 1.5% higher.
Katie, it's the Dow calling, saying, why don't you like me? I mean, why?
You're price-weighted.
I
know.
What
can you tell me?
I know. All right, let's go back to the S&P 500. Most names in that average higher on this Monday. 357 to the upside, 145 is about to the downside, 1 unchanged.
I keep on going back to what Max Kettner of HSBC said, which is there's too much focus on geopolitics. I mean, company guidance is looking good, and we look at the IMAP. It's really mostly green on the screen. The only thing that's down, at least from my view, is consumer staples, down by 0.8%. The biggest driver, of course, is tech, up by 1.5%.
All right, guys, let's get to, wow, a lot of green. Let's get to some individual gainers in today's trade. Got to talk about Dell and HP Inc. Ticker there, of course, HPQ. We saw both of them rallying. Dell up almost 7%, HP up about 5.3% in today's session. This, both of them jumping after a report that NVIDIA was seeking an acquisition to reshape the PC landscape. NVIDIA has been negotiating for more than a year to buy a, quote, large company, according to the website Semi-Accurate. Our Bloomberg intelligence team have been kind of following this speculation. Dell and HP are among the top PC vendors in the world, HP having 19% of the global market and Dell having about 17% market share. I think our BI team, though, questioning like what this would do to NVIDIA in terms of its growth story. But anyway, investors certainly perked up, and we're following that one. Hey, I want to mention Oracle, too. Some outperformance there in today's session. I think it may have been the top gainer in the S&P 500. Yep. Yes, indeed. That stock finishing pretty much at its best levels of the session, up 12.7%. Company disclosing a new Oracle Utilities Industry Suite offerings to help utilities cut costs with artificial intelligence and improve grid reliability. They also announced a new public cloud region in Morocco, extending its global infrastructure footprint. That coming from Benzinga, putting that information out. But nonetheless, we did see some outperformance there. Again, up 12.7%. And then I want to go to something different. I'm actually, thank you, Finley, for actually saying, let's take a look at the Switzerland shares, because the ADRs that trade here are a little wackadoo. So it's called Polypeptide, ticker PPGNSW, hitting, I think, the highest level possibly, not ever, because you can see that that's the intraday. Yeah, that's the intraday. But according to people with knowledge of the matter, the company is attracting private equity takeover interest. So EQT, AB, KKR, and Advent are among suitors that have been studying a potential acquisition of the company, and any buyout firm may seek to team up with its billionaire controlling shareholder. If you're not familiar, this company specializes in the development and manufacturing of synthetic peptides related to metabolism.
I was wondering.
Notably targeting obesity and diabetes. And as you know, those are two things that plague a lot of folks around the world. So,
Peptides are really hot right now. I feel like I see them all over social media, for better or worse.
for your skin?
For everything.
For
pretty
everything.
much,
They are
yeah.
kind of everywhere. You're absolutely right. So anyway, this one definitely catching investor attention. All right, Bailey.
Yeah,
over to you.
those are your gainers on an almost merger Monday, we'll call it,
Yeah.
with some of those headlines. Want to start with some laggards, some of the worst performers in the S&P 500, starting with Fastenal, ticker FAST, much like Katie Greifeld was in college. Fast, Katie.
I used to be.
You used to be, but not anymore.
No.
You will be again.
One day.
But you're a little, I guess mile is probably like Fastenal in terms of getting lower in a bad way.
You
But
were a runner?
just D3, but I ran all 3 seasons.
I had no idea.
Used to
Don't
be
you run
fast.
like 50
I
miles
didn't
a month?
know.
No, a week.
Oh my gosh, a week. Okay.
Okay, anyway, sorry.
Katie
Bailey.
Greifeld, a college athlete amongst us.
That was me.
Fastenal, though, falling again. Call it almost 7%, worst day since October. This came after facing higher prices from suppliers, energy pushback. Fastenal makes some of those straps that fasten things in truck beds. So certainly a big bellwether for some of the industrials companies we're going to be keeping an eye on in terms of earnings. I also want to call out another one of the worst performers in the S&P 500, none other than Conagra Brands, ticker CAG. Guys, this comes after the Slim Jim maker is replacing its CEO after a 60% decline. I just want to feel for the guy, though, who steps into this spot, John Brace, and the stock falls even further. So not
It's a
really
bummer.
a vote of confidence from investors.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to mention, going back to Dell and HP that we mentioned, definitely rallying on, talks that maybe NVIDIA would be interested. NVIDIA at 4:04 p.m. Wall Street time saying the report on a PC acquisition talks false, and says not engaged in discussions to buy any PC maker. So there you have it. So at least maybe that's not happening.
Yeah, I do want to shout out Woo Jin Ho of Bloomberg Intelligence. We talked to him actually about an hour ago, and he said that, let's just say he was skeptical on this report. And now you have NVIDIA coming out and denying it, Bailey.
You want to know who's skeptical? Katie Greifeld, none other than David Solomon, talking about analysts setting too high of expectations. This came after their company reported earnings that they reported a surprise drop in bond and rates trading revenue, casting a shadow over another record quarter. So Goldman Sachs, ticker GS, down 1.9%. Again, the stock, Carol, as we've been mentioning,
Not terrible
has
compared,
been
right?
up pretty sharply.
Yeah.
Over the last 12 months, up 77% even after the decline. So I think a lot of people would take that.
A little
I love-
perspective.
I love CEOs sort of getting annoyed at Wall Street analysts. It's kind of like my favorite genre.
Well, don't they create their estimates based on their guidance?
Yeah, they
Guidance?
talk like conversations with the company, body language, etc.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's kind of like giving signs in baseball. I guess Solomon was supposed to like touch his ear a few more times for
right.
bond
Or just
estimates to
wink
fall down.
at
But
something.
All right, let's get to some stories that definitely caught our attention. This actually has to do with the war. Toto, the Japanese toilet maker, bidets and all that good stuff. Well, apparently they have suspended new orders for its prefabricated bathrooms due to a material shortage as the Iran war squeezes, Bailey, the global oil supply chain.
all I want to say is, having spent 3 months in Japan, they have the best toilets ever.
You're preaching to the choir. Tim and I bonded when we first started working together because we
Wow.
both have Totos.
If you can't, I need a Toto installed in the Bloomberg office. I need one
I
installed
know.
in my house. We need to figure out the supply chain issue,
Once
guys.
you have a Toto, man,
I don't
nothing
know.
else compares.
Katie, you need it. I know I've made it in life once we buy, number one, and number two, when we have a Toto with a heated toilet seat. Maybe that's TMI, but.
No, this is good. I'm glad that we're talking about this. But moving on, let's talk a little bit about Bill Ackman, because Bailey, we picked this out for you. You were one of the people behind this scoop that Bill Ackman has kicked off formal marketing for the IPO of his closed-end fund and his hedge fund. Bailey, is it really going to happen?
We think so. They set a pricing date for the end of April. Obviously, we went through this saga 2 years ago when it was going to be $25 billion, then about $4 billion, then about $2 billion, then didn't happen. But this time, they are incorporating Pershing Square proper as part of that to incentivize IPO buyers. So it'll be interesting. They want to raise between $5 and $10 billion.
All right. Well, there's some IPO activity, so
There is
maybe
some
that's
IPO
a
activity.
positive sign. That's actually going to set us up for a conversation we're going to have on this side. All right, guys, you continue thinking about Toto. photos.
Thank you.
You want to do?
Potty talk over here.
Whatever floats our boats.